So this story is going to be about a situation taking place in the great state of Texas. That's right, Texas. Texas of all places. So U.S. Representative Tony Gonzales was facing off against a large YouTube content creator, Brandon Herrera. Now, if you don't know who Brandon Herrera is, he is a content creator that's done a lot of great and funny videos about weapons, guns, all that stuff. And listen, hey, he decided to throw his hand in the ring to run against Representative Tony Gonzales. And when I read this article from the Texas Tribune, I want all of you to understand who helped out Tony Gonzales. I'll give you a hint. It was AIPAC. AIPAC. Okay? So let's go ahead and talk about this article here. Let's talk about it, because the thing is, personally, on a personal note, I was rooting for Brandon Herrera. I was indeed, because he's been wrongly smeared by the media, and I don't like it when people are smeared by the media. So in San Antonio, Texas, the great state of Texas, after all, shout out to my Texas audience, U.S. Representative Tony Gonzales declared victory in the Republican primary runoff to represent the 23rd Congressional District on Tuesday, narrowly beating back a spirited challenge from YouTuber Brandon Herrera, who strived to turn the race into a referendum over his voting record on guns. Brandon Herrera was also running on other issues as well, something very close to me, and that is protecting the First Amendment and free speech and stopping censorship online. Now, of course, this was a Republican primary. You know how I feel about two-party system. But that was another issue. It wasn't just guns. It was also about internet censorship and free speech. Just saying. I can agree with people, okay? I can agree with different people. That's just how I'm saying it. So, Mr. Gonzales goes on to say, the future of America remains bright as ever. Thank you, Texas 23, for continuing to place your faith in me. Gonzales said on social media. So there you go. Despite his massive fundraising operation and powerful allies, Gonzales' victory was exceedingly tight, with all precincts reporting Gonzales led about 400 votes, which is incredible, which I would have to say then to Brandon, if he were to ever consider running again, you got your name out there. You know what to do. You can do it. The difference is within the margin here. Herrera could request a recount, which I would recommend, because election integrity in America, our votes never disappear. Never once, not ever. Listen, Chicago's the World Heavyweight Championship for votes disappearing. Brandon, I would look into doing a recount. I'm not saying Texas would play the same games as Chicago, but unfortunately, every single state in America has that long, sad history of votes disappearing. Now, Chicago's number one at that. We are the world heavyweight champion. All right, bright lights, big city. But I look into that. The result was a culmination of months of feuding between the centrist Gonzales and the right wing of the Republican Party. I've watched Brandon Herrera's content. He is not right wing, okay? He ran the Republican Party, but calling him right wing these days is like, oh no, evil, woogie boogie boogie. That's not the case, which spilled out into the open in the months ahead of the election, despite pleas from leadership and the rank and file to keep the fighting behind closed doors. That is so stupid. The race was Gonzales' first since his censure by the Texas Republican Party in March last year for taking centrist stances on the more culturally conservative state party found objectionable. The censure opened Gonzales to 4 challengers from the right, including former Medina County Republican Party Chair Julia Clark, former Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent Victor Elvia, and former Border Patrol agent Frank Lopez. Herrera is known for his online persona dubbed the AK guy. I've watched his content. Yes, I've subscribed to his content, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And his irreverent sense of humor in YouTube videos and podcast appearances. His off-color online reputation was seen by some in his party as a liability, but it ended up as a significant platform, allowing him to widely spread his message and fundraise hundreds of thousands of dollars. He didn't take any corporate donations. I respect that. Okay? Number one, that's important. I don't like money in politics. I don't like lobbyists. I don't like... Look, we live in a day and age where our representatives don't represent us, okay? So when you look at Congress, they might as well be wearing NASCAR jackets because they're all owned. Sex workers have more dignity and respect than politicians do, okay? And yet these politicians say they care about us. None of the candidates got the required 50% of the votes needed to stave off a runoff in March 5th GOP primary, which Gonzales secured 45% of the vote. Herrera just received under 25%. The district, which stretches from San Antonio to El Paso, hey, much love to the people of San Antonio and El Paso. We here at Chicago give you a salute. And is bigger than several states, which represents more of the U.S.-Mexico border than any other district in the country. It is the largest in Texas and includes parts of several metropolitan areas. It also includes Uvalde, which Gonzales represented during the Robb Elementary School shooting, which was very tragic. Gonzales' censure followed his opposition to a hardline border bill by U.S. Representative Chip Roy. That's a hell of a name, Chip Roy, Republican from Austin, and a support for bipartisan gun safety legislation after the Robb Elementary shooting. Herrera was a strong fundraiser, having raised over $827,000 ahead of the primary and over $1.3 million ahead of the runoff through his official campaign committee. He attracted contribution from the who's who of far-right conservatives in the state and beyond, including supporters such as, oh no, U.S. Representative Matt Gaetz from Florida and former Texas State Senator Don Huffines. Okay, great. Whatever. That's politics 101. And in many ways, look, while I will have many disagreements with Representative Matt Gaetz, he has proven that the concept of force to vote actually works. I hope you were paying attention, AOC, instead of looking at AI adult entertainment. I mean, oops. Or were you looking at new sunscreens to buy in South Korea? You tell how I feel, because don't worry, folks. I'm going to highlight this paragraph right here and zoom in. That's right. You know, like how you've seen those science fiction movies or those detective movies, zoom in and intensify? But it paled in comparison to Gonzales' fundraising operation, which was backed by several business interests active in West Texas. And, hold on, let's do drum roll. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, also known as AIPAC. But Kit, AIPAC's not buying our democracy. It bought off all the Democratic and Republican politicians. Gonzales raised over $4.5 million ahead of the runoff, a third of which was raised in April before the runoff. So there it is. AIPAC. AIPAC was there. AIPAC was there. Woo! Say it with me, folks. What could possibly go wrong? Let me close that box up there. Hey, we all want to get tickets, but we're not going to go to Texas. So there you go. We're not going to get any tickets. Gonzales spent Tuesday crisscrossing his district, starting in San Antonio and making stops in Eagle Pass and Uvalde County. He and Herrera opted against having traditional election night parties, which Gonzales staying on the road through Tuesday evening. So that's how the election played out. And it's a very tight race. If anything, I would suggest Brandon Herrera should look into a recount. It's up to him at the end of the day. That's his decision. However, knowing my time of covering politics, covering elections, it's abundantly clear that this does warrant to look into a recount. I'm not saying votes disappeared, and I'm not saying any candidate endorsed by AIPAC, there wouldn't be any shenanigans playing. It's just, I still have so much PTSD covering Chicago politics that, my goodness gracious, I know when votes are missing. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe there's more integrity in Texas than there is in Chicago, because Chicago's number one in corruption. We're only number two when you add in Washington, D.C. Doesn't that say a lot about our capital? Speaking outside of San Antonio polling location on Tuesday, Herrera said the amount of money Gonzales and House Republican leadership was pouring into the race showed his grassroots campaign was a real threat, as it should be, which is why, again, I always salute anybody that's running a grassroots campaign, not taking lobby money, not taking corporate PAC money. Break away from it. There's stuttered there. English is not my first language, I guess, for today. I've been stuttering all day today. What is wrong with me? I need to drink more coffee or tea. There's a reason why Tony's been asking a lot of third-party money, Herrera said. As somebody that Gonzales didn't take seriously early on, we've made the Union Party spend about $8 million they weren't expecting to. Good. Because now good old Tony will reveal just how much of a hack fraud he is. So, first of all, there's a lot of benefits to this. People of the great state of Texas, especially in that district, they're about to find out just how owned your boy Gonzales truly is. See, Gonzales now owes favors to everybody, including AIPAC. and anybody else that's invested into them. But if you think that you're going to be represented by Tony Gonzales, the donors will always supersede the voters. See, we live in a country where money is speech and corporations are people. We live in a country where you are not being represented. George Carlin is doing that big musical in the sky. No, he's not vomiting in his grave. No, he's got more dignity than that. He's not spitting around in his grave. No, he's up in heaven doing this big Broadway musical. And all the angels and all the souls and Jesus Christ himself is dancing along. It's called I Told You So, because it's one big club and you ain't in it. And so long as money is in our politics, we're not going to be represented. But see, what's happening here in Texas is happening nationwide. All of our politicians are owned. But when you have a campaign for a representative seat, have the Uni Party spend about $8 million that they weren't expected to. That should tell you that all what these politicians and their owners have is just money. 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 And as soon as enough American voters wake up to the fact that they're not being represented and that anybody that's donating to a politician or owns a politician, don't trust a politician that takes corporate PAC money or lobby money. They're not going to represent you. And the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are one the same. There's no difference. Well, there is a difference. The Democrats put on this neoliberal mask saying that they care about social issues. They don't. They don't. Herrera had the support of the House Freedom Caucus and other rabble-rousing right-wingers, woogie boogie boogie, in the Republican Party. Gonzales had beef for years with those members on policy that said he was too extreme, including on the border and government funding. He also irked his peers when he was one of the few Republicans who voted against U.S. Representative Jim Jordan, Republican Ohio, the House Speaker. Jordan was a founding member of the Freedom Caucus and the right wing's top pick. The conflict simmered under the surface through the past 2 years, with members generally maintaining cordial relationships in the public. Oh, how nice. They put on that mask like, oh, we're all friends. We're all friends in Washington, D.C. Not true. Not true at all. The car? This is a family frickin' friendly show. How dare you? How dare you, sir? Oh, sometimes I pay attention to the chat. I see you guys. I see all of you. And hold on. And Brian Grigsby says Chicago has been number one in corrupt politics for a long time, since Mayor Daley's days. And then came Rahm Emanuel. Oh, don't worry. We're still corrupt, man. Hey, there's a reason why we have that gold heavyweight championship belt. And there's a reason why voter turnout's been at an all-time low here in Chicago. The people of Chicago aren't voting anymore. They got the hint. They got the hint. So there you go. So there you go. Hold on. Let's continue on with the rest of the story. The conflict simmered under the surface through the past 2 years, with members generally maintaining a cordial relationship in the public, but all came spilling into the public in April when Gonzales called his right-wing colleagues scumbags and compared them to, you know them, the KKK, for refusing to vote for billions of dollars in foreign aid to Ukraine. Okay, a little bit off topic, but story time, okay? Because when you start comparing people to that organization, do you have proof or evidence? Because what? They don't want to give billions of dollars? How much money has been wasted in that ridiculous war? A little bit of a story time here. In 2016, I was telling people, hey, there's a 50-50 chance that Donald Trump was going to win the presidency. All of you heard this story before, but look, it pisses me off when I hear that, right? Because as I was warning people, and all my friends were getting upset with me, I'll never forget this one message I got. It was an article. Donald Trump is bringing a new wave of the KKK. And my friend wrote underneath that article, you're helping this come into reality. And I was like, how dare you? Just because I'm saying that Trump might win the presidency does not mean I endorse any organization like that. And hey, surprise, surprise, Trump won in 2016. The spinelessness. I didn't know Gonzales did that. Jesus. Herrera, do me a favor. Actually do a recount, man. Something went down. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. It's my absolute honor to be in Congress, but I serve with some real scumbags. Wow, you're going to make a lot of friends there, right? Gonzales said in a CNN interview, these people, what you mean these people, used to walk around with the white hoods at night. Now they're walking around with white hoods in the daytime. Woof, horrible choice of words. The comment sparked a chain of reaction from Freedom Caucus members to openly support Herrera. It is not surprising that one of the most liberal rhinos in Congress, who has I'm going to screw this, egregiously fought against real border security and votes like a Democrat, would also resort to the Democrat playbook in screaming racism against against those exposing him. Freedom Caucus Chair Bob Good of Virginia said at the time, "Thankfully, the good people of Texas 23rd District have the opportunity to vote for change and an American first patriot in Brandon Herrera." Freedom Caucus members had been covertly involved in the primary beforehand. Clark and Avila both said they met with members of the group before the primary. They both said they had entered the race as much to take out Gonzales as to run themselves. After the primary election, they promptly endorsed Herrera. Gates, who's not a member of the Freedom Caucus, often antagonizes Republican leadership, campaigned for Herrera in San Antonio as early as March. House Republican leadership urged members not to primary against incumbents, and the leadership roster formally endorsed Gonzales, with House Speaker Mike Johnson fundraising for him in San Antonio in April. Several other high-profile Republicans, including Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, endorsed Gonzales as well. Freedom Caucus members were not shy in expressing their displeasure with leadership stance. "I cannot tolerate what's happening to the people that I think are standing up for this country," Royce, who is a policy chair for the Freedom Caucus, said on KTSA at the time. "To have a speaker in San Antonio campaigning for Tony, I'm just beside myself. That's where things are." Gonzales is strategically important for Republican leadership beyond his ability to win a historically centrist seat. His relationship with moderate Republicans were an asset for leadership during the House Republican push to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Gonzales was a vocal member of the effort and helped recruit more moderate members to the cause. The Democrat-controlled Senate quickly tossed the articles of impeachment. Well, no duh. Gonzales also had the endorsement of several major interest groups in Texas, including the Texas Farm Bureau, the Texas Municipality Police Association, the National Border Patrol Council, the Combined Law Enforcement Association of Texas and the Board of Commerce, the Security Council volunteers from the International Association of Firefighters, a firefighters union that endorsed Gonzales, showed up in Parma Branch Library in San Antonio on Tuesday to encourage voters to vote for Gonzales. Gabriel Munoz, a member of the union's legislative committee, said the union backed Gonzales for his advocacy for firefighter funding and for his removal of PFAS, a toxic class of chemicals used for its water-resistant properties from firefighting gear. But he said the union's endorsement was based on what the candidates have done for firefighters and their entire platforms. He should have given Herrera a chance. "When it comes to the union, we always stay centered on firefighter issues because our membership is not right or left. The union has endorsed Democrats, including President Joe Biden in 2020. Oh, you fools. Why would you do such a foolish thing? Herrera is an unconventional candidate, having never served elected office, and eschewing typical campaign parlance for an online presence littered with jokes about women, guns, the Holocaust, autism, and other topics that have prompted concerns from his fellow Republicans." All right, first of all, again, I have watched many of Brandon Herrera's content. These are jokes, folks. Laughter, YouTube, that's how it is. Second of all, number two, get a thicker skin. Number three, if you don't like jokes, then look away, okay? We have politicians committing real crimes here, okay? What's more dangerous, a joke or politicians enriching themselves? What's more dangerous, a funny comment, a laugh, a YouTube content creator, or a politician that has been enriching themselves for 2 years, 4 years, 8 years doing insider trading? What's more dangerous? I'm going to go with the scumbag politicians that are doing insider trading and don't have our best interests at heart. And that goes for both parties. Gonzales criticized him for his jokes, saying that they were not becoming of a member of Congress. Really? Let's talk about the membership of Congress, okay? A lot of those members of Congress are scumbag individuals. Probably a lot of them are drug addicts and alcoholics. I don't know. The way they run this country, it sure seems like they're on something. He took particular offense to a joke Herrera made about veterans, saying, "I often think about putting a gun in my mouth, so I'm basically an honorary veteran." First of all, after knowing what's happening here, I I understood the context of that joke because if you're going to be quoting him on that, look at the bigger context of everything else. A special place in hell for scum and villainy who mock veteran self-deletion or shoot up a church, Gonzales, a Navy veteran, said in response. But that humor is also a large part of his online appeal. Herrera has over 3.4 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, where he reviews guns, talks politics, and trolls leftist activists. Yeah, but he's also trolled Republicans too, so there you go. Most notably you, Gonzales. Herrera said he made the veteran self-deletion quip with veterans who use dark humor to cope with trauma. Herrera is not a veteran. Now, I am a veteran. I served 2 tours in Iraq, all right? United States Marine Corps. In the military, there's dark humor, okay? You hear a lot of jokes from a lot of people. That's just how you cope, all right? It's something that only veterans would understand, all right? Or either that you're working on a deadly job that, has a high death rate. Dark humor is what can get you through the day. That's just how it is. If you don't like it, too bad. That's just how it is. In a YouTube monologue last month, Herrera said when the time calls for it, he knows how to behave. I do have a higher standard of demeanor when it comes to actual political discourse on things like, Twitter. It's all about knowing the time and place, Herrera said. It's like you'll swear in front of your drinking buddies, but not in front of your grandma unless your grandma is rad as shite. Okay, great. Several volunteers for Herrera's campaign stood outside San Antonio locations Tuesday, making the case for his bid. One volunteer, Victoria, who would not give her last name, is active duty military, said she was there to talk to voters concerned about Herrera's past comments. He's a YouTuber. He's a comedian. He said things that because it's comedy, people might take it the wrong way, and people just need to have a sense of humor about it, she said. Now, look, I heard him say that joke. I didn't take offense to it. Now, I got thick skin. And let's face it, I like good comedy. And comedy, if you want to be a good comedian, this goes for it in general, you got to ridicule everything. That's what the court gesture is. Why do you think the court gesture was the most important in medieval times? He reminded the king and queen that they were human and that they too themselves can be ridiculed. Anything is open for ridicule. Anything. Me, the city of Chicago, politics, religion, everything. I didn't take offense to it. You think Gonzales is going to care about veterans' rights? He's owned by his corporate donors. Guess what his number one policy is going to be, people of the Texas District 23? It's going to be appeasing his donors, not you, the voters. As I said before, the donors come before the voters. Hell, the voters are lucky that they're in second place. I'm being too generous there. Voters, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. Continuing on, Gonzales will now face Democrat Santos Lemon in November's general election. The district has historically voted for moderates of both parties, though it became more comfortably Republican after redistricting in 2021. The district voted for former President Donald Trump by 1.7 percentage points in 2020, but would have voted for Trump by 7.1 points with the new district lines. So there you go. Herrera said Tuesday that redistricting allows voters to support a more right-wing candidate in the primary without having to worry about losing to a Democrat in November. It's much more conservative, so now you don't have to settle for a moderate. We can actually get a conservative we always wanted, Herrera said. The national Democratic groups, such as the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and the House Majority PAC, are not investing in Lemon, who raised just under $88,000 through February. He missed the deadline to file his April 30th report disclosing his most recent haul, because Democrats don't care. They got another centrist in there. It doesn't matter. Republicans are still investing in the region for the general election. The Congressional Leadership Fund, a super PAC aligned with Johnson, reserved $694,000 in English and Spanish ads for the El Paso market in November. Isn't that special? So look, what can we take away from this article? First of all, money in politics. It's corrupting everything. Money in politics destroys everything. Money in politics cripples our democracy. Now, as I said before in this segment, I'm not offended by anything that Brandon Herrera said. All right. And to the voters, especially Brandon Herrera supporters, I would suggest kindly to maybe look into doing a recount. Maybe it's just me speaking because I've covered Chicago politics, and Texas politics and Chicago politics might be two different things altogether. But knowing that we lack election integrity in this country, it could be maybe kind of sort of something to look into.